I am kind of blown away. Did not expect to receive this honor. And I must say thank you because, when you look up the word vanguard and you think about what that really means, it means a group of people leading the way in a new development or new ideas. It also means the foremost position in an army or fleet advancing into battle. I'm not sure if I deserve that. I'm in a room filled with people who, even though their battle days are over, still battle every day to try to make sure the legacy of our dear Marine Corps flies as high as it can. You may wonder, okay, why am I a little upset? Because I literally thought about speaking to you tonight about something that's been really just gripping me since the day I kind of took my uniform off and stuck it in the closet. Just to give you a little background, I'll make sure you understand, Jerry, and thank you so much for the incredible introduction. I entered the Marine Corps in 1974. Came in on a delayed entry program, went through Parris Island. Got up Parris Island. I was meritoriously promoted during boot camp as a second honor man to a platoon. Within 4 months, I got meritoriously promoted a second time to Lance Corporal, and then got promoted early to Corporal. And during that period of time, I had a gunny that came up to me and said, "Dude, what are you doing here, man? You shouldn't be here." I was at 29 Palms at the time. I was a true paneler at 29 Palms. And we had literally were one of the last groups that was getting ready to go and participate in the evacuation in Vietnam, but we got pulled out because they said, "You don't need you anymore." So I ended up at 29 Palms, and he said, "What are you doing here? There's a place called the Naval Academy." I said, "Wait a second. I live 20 minutes away from the Naval Academy. I used to roll those guys in those white uniforms every weekend if we had a chance to beat one of them up." So, "Well, that's where you should be because you can go to college." I was like, "Oh, wow." So I went ahead and went to the Naval Academy Prep School. I entered the Naval Academy Prep School when it was moved up to Newport, Rhode Island, as one of 40 Marines. I was the only African-American Marine that entered. We only graduated 19 from the prep school. Only 12 of us got appointments to the Naval Academy, and only 4 of us graduated, and I was one of those 4. Thank you. Thank you. But this is a crazy story, but 12 weeks before I graduated from the Naval Academy, our class, 1980, was the class responsible for ending immunizations using the gun. Because the first 100 guys that walked through the line got a 3 times overdose of diphtheria, typhoid, and rubella, and I was one of those people. Sent me to the hospital. I went half blind in my left eye, had extreme neurological disorders that the Navy, and at that time, the Washington, D.C. medical complex literally scratched their head because they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. Now, I'm going to say this. That shot did not cause me to have MS. I probably genetically would have had it anyway. However, it caused such a blast to my immune system that I probably went through my first episode and bout of MS right before graduation. I got put on medical hold. I'm one of the only Marines or the only graduates from the Naval Academy to actually walk across the stage at the Naval Academy, receive your diploma, and not be commissioned. I served officially in the rank of midshipman, active duty, for 6 months before I fought with the help of a senator and a congressperson here in the state of Maryland. Because I said, look, I didn't do anything to myself to not be able to serve. This happened to me. And you owe me. And truthfully, I'll tell you the God's honest truth, because I had gone half blind in my left eye, my eye was not correctable to 2020, the Marine Corps wouldn't take me back. So my commission in the Navy was under what was then a term that the military used, they no longer use, it was under NPQ, not physically qualified. So I was only allowed to go, I had 2 choices, Supply Corps in the Navy or cryptologic direct support officer in the Navy. Because I had studied Chinese at the Naval Academy, I figured, well, let me go to Defense Language Institute, get a language, I'll do this Russian thing, and maybe I'll be a special duty intelligence officer. As an NPQ officer, I was not supposed to be able to be deployed. However, I ended up doing over 300 days on the water and over 300 days under the water, and then became the cryptologic direct support officer to Subland, assigning those people that did those runs that you've heard about up and down the East Coast. So I got time deployed that I probably should not have had, but it made me understand to my core what all of us who were deployed go through. And some of the lessons I learned deployed are etched in my soul. Remembering the difficulty of so many of the troops that were under me, I had small debts that I had to take out on ships, and I ended up running a program at the National Security Agency called Classic Paladin, which was all the Hebrew, Farsi, and Arabic linguists in the military at the time before the Gulf blew up. And my guys were deployed sometimes 180 days, come back home. This is back before they allowed deployments to be longer than 180 days. Come back home for a day, deploy again. 2 days later, 180 days, because they were the only guys who spoke these languages. And we needed them. And I remember how it destroyed families, how it destroyed some of those troops, because we didn't give them the assistance that they needed. So when I finally came off active duty, had an opportunity to actually start the show that I ended up doing for 17 years, which I'm still doing more shows of for a different purpose now. I remember back then, let's go back in time. This was back in 1991, 92, 93, where there were still people spitting on the ground when we walked around wearing that uniform. People who were so angry that we were part of the baby killers. Let's remember, we're living in a different time right now. We have people who will walk by and scream that crazy phrase, "Thank you for your service," and won't even look back at the service member that they say it to see what they have to say. I'm so honored to be in this room because I've had conversations with people in less than 2 hours who are all devoted to making the lives better of those soldiers and Marines that do so much for us, the least of us who do so much for the most of us. But I got to tell you something, guys. I can't let it go. I got to say to you, as we celebrate tonight, 2 hours, 2 of our veterans took their lives. The number's not 19 to 20. I was just speaking to the Deputy Secretary of the VA about a week and a half ago. I think his name was Deputy Secretary Thompson, who was telling me that they're working on a project right now. It's called Deep Dive, and we're now starting to realize that the true numbers facing our veterans is somewhere between 25 and 26, and it might be as high as 30 today. 5 years ago. Now, I defy any one of you in this room to tell me that you don't remember before COVID, every single day you heard about opioid deaths and addiction, and you heard about veterans. But I got to tell you right now, it sickens me that our media doesn't do as much to talk about the fact that 24 to 25 are dying every day still. And there's so much that we could do about this. So I'm going to take advantage of a moment in front of so many stars and eagles and golden oak leaves and silver oak leaves in the room to say, let me tell you something. General Sutton, are you in the room still? Right here. General, The General and I have been blessed to work together on a project that we both were introduced to do about 10 years ago. That is a project that has now literally garnered the attention of the governing bodies in the world that govern and actually validate psychological profiles. And there has been a profile, or a protocol that has existed on this planet, folks, for the last 11 years that has proven since day one to be 90% efficacious in remitting all symptoms of PTSD. All in 5 to 10 hours without any medication whatsoever. This protocol, the general has been involved in for 10 years. I, for the last 5 years, have been running down to Washington, D.C., banging on every door that I can get to say we can stop this 25 a day if we just put this protocol into place. And I have been working on multiple protocols when it comes to traumatic brain injury, concussive brain injury, neurological disease for the last 10 years, but never have I seen anything with this efficacious. This thing is so real that right now the government of Ukraine and Poland have begged us to come and train, and we have already done so in the last 5 months, train 30 clinicians that are right now today treating PTSD among Ukrainians, civilians, and military. Right now. And the data that's coming out is proving that the efficaciousness is 9 out of 10. Yet we still have 25 dying here. Why? I'm sorry. I'm not angry at you. I'm just angry. Because this is a protocol that has been, I've worked on various things when it comes to traumatic brain injury. From a device that's called a PONS device, portable neuromodulation device, that just got FDA approval here in the United States. It works for MS. Took 35 years to implement. I'm working on another protocol with an advanced EEG prototype that is the most advanced EEG on the planet. It can actually numerically identify PTSD all the way through to Alzheimer's and give you a readout 30 pages long. But I ran into a scientist about 9 years ago, Joseph Maroon. I don't know if any of you know who he is. He used to be the former head of NFL neurological treatments. Was at the University of Pittsburgh. And Joseph Maroon said to me 10 years ago, Montel, for you to move these initiatives forward, it's going to be like pushing rope up a hill. Because the truth of the matter is, any transformative breakthroughs in medical science are met with the most vehement and adamant resistance by the medical community. And that's what I have seen firsthand. I'm not putting down the VA, I'm just telling you the truth. There are entrenched bureaucrats who have authored and turned PTSD into a $10 billion cottage industry, making money off the suffering of us, the least of us who have served and are suffering today. I do a show right now that's called Military Makeover, where we go in and take deserving veterans and we make their homes over from the ground up. And every single one of the veterans that I work with, we do this in 10 days. We take their entire home, and I'm not talking about a facelift. I'm talking about everything from floors to ceilings to plumbing to you name it. The entire community comes together, volunteers, and donates the things, the supplies that we use to do this makeover. We do it in 10 days. Take the veteran out, they come back home to a brand new house, and hundreds of people in the community standing there to welcome them back because they're the ones who swing the hammers and paint. Because they want to do a little bit more than just say thank you for your service. And when I do that show, every single one of the veteran families that we deal with are veterans who are deep in the throes of their PTSD, having let their last combat mission been 13 years ago, 10 years ago, and these guys are deep. Their families, I'm sitting there with a family that's literally on the verge of tearing apart. Because We treat them with a treatment protocol that we know has been less than 37% efficacious that most soldiers won't even use and go through, and give them more drugs to try to hide their pain. I'm trying to cure their pain, not me, but the doctor that put this together, Dr. Burke. He created a protocol that cures this pain. And I'm sorry. General Berger, thank you so much for being here, and I'm sorry that you have to take this brunt from me, but sir, you got to call somebody. I've been talking to Secretary Del Toro. I'm talking to whoever I can talk to right now to get them to say, stop helping people over there and start helping the guys right here. We have to. So I thank you for this award and this honor. I'm going to try to stay at the tip of the spear and be the loudest, angriest, ugliest voice that they hear until somebody stops and listens and says, the tragedy of what we lose is so unnecessary. We can stop this. Tomorrow it won't be 24, 25 if we implement this protocol. There may be 10 or less. And then we'll keep working until we get it down to 1, and 1 is still too many. But as the general said, and has been said over and over again, my days in Parris Island are what drive me now. It's what gives me the fortitude to step up and not take no for an answer. I'm not taking it. Yeah, the Marines, we actually take any hill we're ordered to take, but we don't take any shit. And I'm not going to take any when it comes to saving our guys' lives. Thank you.